Norwich School is a traditional yet profoundly lively place where pupils are immersed in a well-rounded and stimulating education. Set next to Norwich Cathedral, which has been a centre for learning for over 900 years, the school praises itself on an imaginative culture filled with scholarship values and mutual respect. Through pioneering work in integration, Gabbitas was the first, in collaboration with Norwich School, to offer a day school to international families and students. This allows students to integrate and become a full part of their school and wider community far beyond the school grounds. Gabbitas is joined here at the Seagram Room with the director of the international programme, Will Croston. Will is the head of the examination centre, he's the UCAS advisor and modern language teacher. He's also got extensive experience in personal tutoring. We're here to find out more on how Norwich School helps international students fully integrate into the day school hosting model. How did the idea of a day school hosting model and a partnership between Norwich School and Gabbitas come about?
Well, we've had a long-standing relationship with Gabbitas over the last few years, since 2014, when we had our first ever international pupil come and stay with us. It was done purely by chance. She applied for the sixth form at Norwich School. We found out that she was at a boarding school and that she wanted to do something different. So she came to Norwich, she passed all the interview processes, and she ended up staying with her aunt in a small market town just outside of Norwich. That made the leadership team at the time think, well, actually, if we can do it for one pupil, or one pupil can do it for herself, then maybe we could work with an established provider like Gabbitas to replicate that sort of model. And I think from that sort of beginnings of one student, we've sort of pioneered a really innovative approach then, which brings international students to day schools. That host family approach then has given both day schools the opportunity to welcome students, and students the opportunity then to enjoy everything that a day school has to offer and go home to family life at the same time. So I suppose what we've done is try to create then a new sort of model in education, and one that's turned out to be very, very successful. So what we've tried to do is build more community links between our families, between international families and the school over time. That sort of level of support which comes from different places. So it comes from the school, it comes from Gabbitas, it comes from the host families, it also comes from the pupil's own family, puts the students in a very, very safe and protective atmosphere, and it also gives them the impression of independence, which they wouldn't necessarily get in a boarding school. And that's really good preparation for life after school as well, where you do have to manage your own time.
How has having international students in your sixth form enriched the school for everyone?
Well, I think the international students at the school have really enriched the school and really made some major changes to the way that we carry out our education. There's been advantages both for our domestic students and also for the international students as well. So perhaps I should talk about the international ones first. I think the advantages for them are threefold. I think they get the academic advantages of coming to a leading day school, and they get excellent results in their exams. They go on to the very best universities. One of my other jobs is actually doing UCAS advice, and it is a real pleasure to see them apply and how they develop and change over the 2 years that they're with us. So they learn a lot also linguistically. One of the things about being in a very small group of international students is that they have to immerse themselves into British culture at the same time. So they learn all sorts of idiomatic English, they learn how their peers aged 16, 17, 18 carry out their lives, and really they end up sort of fusing the best of both cultures, and that really does prepare them for the world ahead. For the domestic students, there are also advantages. Norfolk historically has been quite an isolated area, so seeing people come in from outside has given our students new perspectives on the world. I've been at Norwich School for 25 years, and it's a school that's hugely changed, just like the whole of the fabric of the United Kingdom has changed over that sort of period. One of the things that the international students have brought with them is their festivals and festivities, and we make a big thing now of the Chinese New Year. So on the 22nd of January, we celebrated the Year of the Rabbit. In the main school, we used Norwich Cathedral as our sort of stage for the Chinese New Year assemblies. We had the school dragons came out, we had drummers, and we had a very similar assembly delivered to the children. And that really gives them an idea of different cultures and something that they wouldn't otherwise experience.
Do you consider there are advantages in having a day school hosting model rather than the more traditional boarding school arrangement?
Yes, I think the day school arrangement for us has been something that we really value, and it's something that we found really innovative in looking after international students during their time in the UK. I think the host families that we use often have connections with the school, so they actually buy into the school ethos right from the very first moment. So we have lots of families who have children at the school, which then gives the international students a ready-made sort of set of friends. We've got one family who are grandparents, and I think they really enjoy spoiling the international students. And we've also got then some teachers who are involved in the homestay program as well, which I think families from overseas really like. They like the idea of their children being in that sort of environment. The good thing that Gabbitas can do for us is that they can give the students a choice of families as well. So people can say, well, actually, I want to be in a family with another international student. I want to have children who are roughly my age in the family, or I would quite like a dog or a cat. This sort of homestay arrangement is flexible enough to give the children coming from overseas the same range of opportunities that UK families give their children. And the host families are selected so that they will go and pick up the children when they come back. They are treating the children exactly as their own children, and that makes relationships build over time. I had a reunion with some of our international students last weekend in London, and a lot of them were asking, how's my host family? I'm still in contact. I still come back to Norwich to see them, or when they come down to London, we meet up for lunch. And I think that's the most lovely thing about homestay and that relationship that Gabbitas has helped us build.
Can you tell me a bit more about the feedback you've had from previous students over the years on how their experience with day school hosting has been at Norwich?
I think it's been really interesting. I think we've had lots of positive feedback. What's been most interesting from my point of view is sometimes some of the little sort of cultural moments where people's jaws just drop. I think we've had that sort of experiences around English food, and one of the things is people have this sort of perception sometimes that English cooking is awful. And when they go and live with a home family, they have their first roast dinner or something like that. I think that is something that really can be eye-opening. That sort of openness to new ideas, to new experiences is one of the really big things then about the homestay program. And I think that's the sort of thing that they remember. It's the sort of acts of everyday kindness that come with living in a family. And I think it's also quite important for the student coming to the UK is that they have to learn to cope with new people. And it's something that makes them grow as individuals as well, because it is a big ask to come and live with a family that you've never met before, not just for you as the student, but also for the family who are taking someone else in. The fact that we have families coming back year after year wanting to be host families is obviously a testimony both to their success as hosts, but also to the students in terms of their own flexibility and to be equipped for life in the UK once they leave school.
So how does the partnership with Gabbitas work from your perspective?
Yeah, I think the partnership from the school's perspective works in a really good way. It's something that's developed organically over time as well. So as the years have gone on, I think Norwich School and Gabbitas have learned how to work more effectively and more closely together. So Gabbitas's responsibilities effectively lie as guardians of the children, so that they look after the children's well-being, and they work very closely with the school to ensure that each international student has the best possible experience. So they also select the families, they interview the families, they vet the families, which often come through our recommendation as well. So there's still that link between Norwich School and Gabbitas, but they also then liaise with the families as well if there are any issues. Gabbitas also attends historically the parents' evenings alongside with the host families. So Gabbitas are involved in the day-to-day relationship between the international family, between the UK family, and between the schools. So I think we really value that relationship. Gabbitas's guardians are very, very experienced, and that to me means that we can work very closely together then to head off any problems that might emerge. But when there are some difficulties, the fact that we have that connection with Gabbitas and with the host families means that we can work together to try and sort of smooth the path for the student, because sometimes things like homesickness, those sorts of issues do creep in, and if we spot something we can share it with Gabbitas or with the host families, and the host families have also learnt that it's important to share these sorts of views with us as a school and also with Gabbitas as well. One of the things that I've really enjoyed over the last few years is getting to know parents from around the world, trying to build those sorts of relationships and help them know that their children are in the best possible place and that we will help them get to where they want to go, because each child is individual.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Norwich School does a really good job of integrating its international students both into the local community and school at the same time. It's also interesting to hear how day school hosting really brings out and contextualises the setup for international students when they move over here into the UK. If you'd like to learn more on Norwich School's international pupil integration and development initiatives, visit their website at www.norwich-school.org.uk. And if you're interested in having a garden here in the UK or want to find out more about the benefits, contact one of our experts by emailing info@gabbitas.com or visit the Gabbitas website at www.gabbitas.com/guardians.